Hi, everyone. Welcome to Journey of the Awakening. I am your host, Alina, and I am here with Angelica and a very special guest, Michael Peter Langevin. And we're so happy to have you with us today. And sorry for the delay. We had some hiccups we had to take care of, but we're here now and we're ready.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. And I've known Michael for many, many years,
Many,
and
many.
many, too many.
We've been
All
through a
right.
few scenes.
Yeah, we've been through it more than a few. We've had some very interesting experiences for sure, and we both like to talk. So hopefully they'll tune in, and everyone will find us and enjoy us chatting back and forth. So Michael is an author. He's got a new book coming out for children. We're not exactly sure of the release date, but it's written and at the publishers at the moment. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that in a second.
I
He's
can.
written.
I've been doing on and off for decades children's therapy, and I love working with kids because of their imaginations and their unrealized potential. And I've written books and published books, and it dawned on me, God, with AI, it's really easy to do something I've always wanted. When my kids were young, they had lambs for 4-H. Uh, and it all went extremely well until we found out that you had to sell them to a restaurant and have them eaten. Um,
Oh,
they had become part of the family, so it was pretty upsetting. So we decided to keep the lambs, and they had lived in our home, slept with the kids, and eventually they just became too much. We had a farm, but they didn't like fences, so I would be getting calls in my office to come get them out of the neighbors' crops, and we had to give them away to a very nice farmer who said he wouldn't eat them. But they didn't really fit in with the flock, with the rest of the lambs. They had been raised in our home. Uh, and we went to visit them periodically. And one time we went to visit, said, it's uncanny that I have great fences, but they just seem to have disappeared. Um,
oh,
and I believe the man. And in my mind, I wrote this story about what might have happened to them, how they've been around me, they've been around my children, they've been around magic. And the name of the story is Lambs Can Fly. I
that's a great story title. I mean, gosh, that's great.
We all can fly, and this is, I tried to, with the help of AI, I've illustrated it. I wrote the story years ago and put it on the shelf because I didn't have a good illustrator to work with me, and I, I learned a great deal about AI and getting it to work for me, and it made, just with a lot of patience that I don't usually have, and a lot of attention to detail, which isn't my best strength. It made just the greatest illustrations. And I've got a 34-page book that's a parable for children.
And we often get questions about how do we raise. I get this question a lot, and I get it for Siddhartha, which is how do we raise metaphysical children? Like people want to know that. So this is a perfect book for that, isn't it?
It is. There's a magazine, I think they're still publishing, out of California, called Sage Woman, which is a Wiccan magazine, and I was blessed to write a column for them when my kids were young, as I was going through it, and just writing, okay, when the challenges come up, if you're living a spiritual life, if you're living a magical life, how do you apply that to your children? My children were adopted in Peru, as you know, and during a civil war, as I like to say,
Oh,
and that all took magic. But they're they're the best thing that ever happened in my life, short of my wife. And they they're well-adjusted adults, and two of my best friends in the world. So I made a lot of mistakes because you can't parent without making mistakes. But I think using magic, spirituality, clear intent, um, they turned out okay, and I'm very, very blessed and thankful to have them in my lives.
this is probably a question that you may or may not want to answer, but my question is, in your therapy work with children, does that also, I mean, you're not a typical therapist, I'm pretty sure.
No, no.
So does
Actually, I think I have something still somewhere on YouTube about some of my theories of therapy versus therapy, my therapy versus other therapy, and it's not a taught class, but I use magic in everything I do. I believe that if we that we came to be spiritual beings and that life can be magical, and that if we use our intent and our focus, we can really change the outcome with a lot of things. I like to think my life is kind of proof of that I've had such an amazing, blessed life on so many levels. And when I work with these kids, now I'm working in New Orleans, which is just a wonderful area. But there's a lot of broken families and troubled
Yeah.
youth. And most of them, not all of them, most of them just need someone to care about them and some guidance. And I use a lot with them. I speak about what excites them. We do daydreaming together. We work on whatever level of religion they practice with their parents, because I believe that all religions, if they're believed in, are powerful and useful tools. And then on my own, I do ritual and ceremony for them uh, to help them kind of get the pieces together and get their lives together. All the kids I've worked with over the years have not turned out to be huge, glowing successes, sadly. But then they came to me broken, and I gave them what I had. I planted the seeds, and a lot of the kids I've worked with, against all odds, are doing real well now as adults, and I feel very lucky that. And I think my caring and other people being involved in their lives, no doubt, and an extra boost of magic has made a difference. Um,
You can only give someone so much. It's what they do with it. You plant the seed, but they have to grow that seed into a nice, healthy plant, don't they?
They do. Well, one of my favorite stories is Jeremiah, who uh, woke up one morning. He was a teenager, 13, I think, and he found his father dead of an overdose.
Oh,
Um, and he called the police, and they arrested his mother for dealing drugs and sent her away. So this boy had no relatives and would bounce from foster home to foster home. And I was his social worker, and I kept trying to get him into good foster homes, but he was a troubled youth who was talking to dead people and ranting. But we worked together, and he slowly put the pieces together, and eventually he graduated high school. He picked up music, and he tried college, although it really wasn't for him. But he he kept at it, and he's gotten a series of good jobs, one leading to another, and good relationships. And right now, he's working in a ski resort. And has a good relationship and is really happy. When I was working at the Monroe Institute in Virginia, I got the director, then Scooter McGonigal, to give him a scholarship and bring him there. And here was this kid who had gone through all of this and was just making it in the world. And he spent a week at the Monroe Institute studying things like self-improvement and astral traveling and lucid dreaming, and it just boosted him up to the next level. He's been real clear that he has control of his life ever since.
that's excellent. You told me one time some people do well on the 3D physical world, and then some people who are, I don't like the word gifted, but people who have abilities don't do well in that 3D world. They do better metaphysically than they do physically. You told me that one time. You still feel that way after
Oh, I
working with
definitely feel that
kids?
way. I'm working with one kid now. He's on the higher level of the autistic scale. They used to call it Asperger's. Fixated on fans and knows every state in the United States and every capital countries, all the countries, all the
Wow.
capitals. But school, he kind of troubles, and he really troubles his wonderful parents and his siblings. I think the boy's a genius. I think he's going to go far in the world. But as far as dealing with the material world, though, that's where the separation can be really seen with kids. I think we all fight the struggle between the spiritual, magical realms and the material world. The I call it the spell of materialism that captivates people and takes them over and makes them doubt themselves and live in fear and scarcity rather than in their glorious possibilities.
I think that would be a good topic to take on someday about about that. That fear can cause a lot of trouble. It can stop you and keep you stuck in a place that you don't want to be stuck, right? It
I think
does
it's one of
that.
the I think it's one of the biggest enemies of humanity. Fear, doubt, insecurity. They're not scarcity. They're not real. They're used to control us and keep us as consumers and workers. But
Yes,
but the good news is, I really think we came to see that all change.
I hope so too.
No,
So
I've talked to the shamans in Latin America and Africa and magic workers all over the world, and we came now to be at the front row to help bring about a transformation of humanity and the planet. And the good news is we've already run. Things like Trump and his followers are just destroying the old ways so we can make way for the new.
I want to go back in your history because I know it, but other people don't know it about you, which is in your youth, you would travel to South America to meet real shamans, not the tourist shamans. Will you tell people a little bit about that experience, about finding, like maybe Eddie? I can't think of what we
Oh,
called him.
Fancy Eddie. So you always have
Yeah.
to tell Fancy Eddie. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, I dabbled in the occult. I studied with the witches of Salem, Mass. When I was in college, and when I was in college, I had a college professor. I was taking a class in Latin American politics. She had just gotten back from Latin America, and she had just fallen in love with Peru and Ecuador and South America in general, but the remains of the Inca Empire. And I was really blessed because I was going to college in the 70s, and South America was not a tourist trap as such. Not that it's a trap now, but it was not very popular on the tourist route. I felt compelled after that class, and I saved up my money and a little bit ahead as a college student, and I flew to Lima. I landed with $30 in my pocket, and was going to stay there as long as I can. And I ended up staying, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks, and traveling to the Nazca Lines and the Arequipa Canyon and Lake Titicaca and Cusco and Machu Picchu. And in Machu Picchu, my whole world was blown apart because I had visions of the Inca gods and goddesses. I met so many wonderful people along the way because I had no money. So I was hitchhiking. You could back then, even in Peru. And people would take me into their homes and tell me stories and say, oh, and when you come back, you have to go to visit my friend because you're interested in this guy. He lives in Bolivia on the Amazon. And so I got, right, my first trip down there, I got introductions to magic workers in the Amazon. And I went back. My life consisted of working. I finished college, but then I working, saving money, and going back to Latin America to find these shamans. And as you said, it was before the old ways really fell away. The 70s, the 80s, the early 80s was when things were changing radically. And I got to meet authentic, old-fashioned shaman magic workers in the Amazon, in the Andes Mountains, in the Amazon jungles. My favorite story, which you like so much, is Vanishing Eddie. Eddie was one of the shamans I met. I would if I at first I had introductions to them, but then I would hear about these shamans and I would go down. I would go to where I heard they were, and then I would ask about, and when I met them, I would beg them to take me through a ceremony or teach me some of their magic. I was in a former rubber capital of Bolivia, and I was in the bar, and I had heard about this guy who could vanish and reappear. And I asked, and I was told, okay, if you come back this afternoon, we'll see if we can get Eddie to come. And I got to meet this guy, kind of a big guy, kind of gruff, and he said, yeah, I do magic. And I said, well, will you teach me? And kind of looked at me, sized me up and down, and said, yeah, meet my apprentice here tonight at 6, and he'll take you to my hut in the jungle. So at 6 o'clock, we hiked and hiked through the mosquito-ridden jungle, and
Oh.
I was a little bit unsure where we were going, what was going to happen. But when we got to this hut, um, Eddie was there, and he invited me for tea, and he and his apprentice and I sat down and had tea. Now in South America, they still, in some of the countries, they still eat guinea pig, which is what they had for fowl before the Europeans came, and they have sills, door sills, door stops that keep the guinea pigs in the home. So the guinea pigs are pretty much part of the family until it's time to eat them. And so Eddie had a bunch of guinea pigs running around, and I had been to South America enough that it was common. But I started hearing these popping, and as we were drinking the tea, that the guinea pigs seemed to be disappearing. And eventually, it was undeniable. I said, "Eddie, are you making the guinea pigs disappear?" He said, "Oh yeah, that's part of what I do." Poop, they were all back, and then poop, Eddie was gone. He was sitting right in front of me, and then he was gone. And I said to his friend, "What happened? Where is he? How did he do that?" And then Eddie walked back in the door. And I said, "Eddie, you didn't walk out the door. How are you walking back in the door?" And he said, "Well, I had to relieve myself, so I just went." And I said, "Eddie, can you make me do that? Can you make me do that?" But then he was gone again. And this time it took a little while. And I talked to the apprentice, and he said, "Hey, Eddie's not really crazy about telling the secrets of what he does, but if you're nice to him, he might tell you some things." Eddie was back, and he was holding golden thistle, which grows in Northern California, which is where I lived. And he said, "Oh, I was just in the part of the world you live in. And these flowers are just so unique and beautiful. We don't have them here in the Amazon." I said, "No, you don't. How did you get them, Eddie?" And he said, "I was just where you lived." And then we talked for a while, and he assured me there was nothing in the tea. I have done ceremonies with a lot of shamans with ayahuasca and San Pedro cactus and a number of substances, but he assured me there was nothing. And then after we talked for a while, he disappeared again. And we waited. I said, "Well, what will he bring back this time?" to his apprentice. And his apprentice said, "I never know." And we waited, and we talked, and we waited. And after a while, the apprentice said, "Sometimes he does this. He just gets tired of being asked questions. He's probably back at the bar." So we hiked the mosquito-ridden trail back to town. And sure enough, there was Eddie sitting at the bar. I said, "Eddie, how do you do this? Eddie, you have to take me on as your second apprentice. You have to teach me." Eddie almost fell off his bar stool. He was laughing so hard. He said, You would make such a bad apprentice, I would kill you." He said, "Your job is to meet people like me and write about them. Your job is not to be an apprentice." And I went back there a few years later, and I couldn't find Eddie anywhere, which was the case with many of the shamans who I had visited. As time went on, they either moved back into the Amazon, or some of them, I think, just moved on to a different dimension or plane of existence. Yeah.
But you wrote about the shamans in the Amazon that you met. That book is sold out on Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, book's
it's only that one's only available right now in ebook
Kindle
form. Yeah,
Kindle. Yeah.
And the other ones, I mean, I have to talk to the publishers because the other ones are running low. Not all. Spiritual Business, I think, is still available, but I think Secrets of the Ancient Incas is running low, and I'm not sure. My most recent one, Travel Tales to Unknown Realities, is still available.
Tell us about that one, because I don't know anything about that
Sure.
one.
That one. Well, I got to start with my wife. I married. My second marriage is to an amazing woman. My first marriage, she put up with me and raised my kids with me. She must be amazing too. But we parted our ways, and I went down to Cusco and Latin America to write a book, and my son was born on the shores of Lake Titicaca. So and it's such a magical place. So I decided to take a bus from Cusco to Titicaca. When I was going to get on the bus, there was only one seat left. I almost missed the bus. I sat down, and it's about a 4-hour bus ride, and I talked to this beautiful woman I sat next to for the whole time. She was from Sweden, and we kind of fell in love. I did. I wasn't sure about her. She was a little standoffish, but we had a wonderful conversation. And then when we got to the shore, Lake Titicaca de Puno, she said, "Okay, bye." And I was rather heartbroken. I looked for her for 2 days in Puno and couldn't find her. So I said, "Oh well, it was a one-sided thing." And I went over to the other side to Copacabana in Bolivia. And in Bolivia, I was walking down the hill towards the lake after eating dinner, and she was walking up the hill. And she ran up and she hugged me and said, "You're not getting away this time." Uh, we, we, we went out for drinks, and she confessed, "Well, I didn't really want to tell you, but I practice witchcraft in Sweden. Um, and I've written a book on the goddesses of the Norse people." So we had a lot in common. We courted for 2 years over the internet and getting together very rarely. And when I got to Virginia and had a steady job, I asked her to marry me. After we were there for a while, I had worked for the Monroe Institute, and then we did a public relations company called Langevin Accent Marketing. And then she kept saying, "You're telling me all these stories that aren't in your first 3 books. You really need to write them down and put them in a book." It was a great encouragement, so I did, because my whole life has been one of unlikely magical mishaps and journeys and spiritual miracles of sorts. So I wrote them all down and put them together and published them a year ago, called called I could do it. Travel Tales to Unknown Realities.
There you go.
There you go. And it talks about everything from my childhood growing up in funeral home and seeing ghosts to moving to New Orleans, my travels to Africa, all over Latin America and the Caribbean, Canada, and Europe. So
everywhere.
Yeah, wherever I was, there was magic happening. I seem to be a magnet for that, and I'm very thankful for it. Although sometimes it almost killed me.
Can I tell them a story that it's a Sophia story?
Sure, please.
After I met Michael, which was kind of strange, I invited myself to come to his house with other people because I got the message in my ear that they couldn't do whatever it was he needed to have done, that I should go with him. So I never invite myself places because mostly I don't like people so much. But I said, "Okay, I'd like to go with you." And they said, "Well, let us find out." And he said, "Yeah, more the merrier." So we went and we got to know him that way very well. But one day we were having a potluck with 2 other people, the 2 of them and me, and then 2 other people, 2 other women. And they wanted to show us something that was out in the field. So we all walked out into this tall, grassy field. And Michael's somewhere over there. The other 2 women are over there. And Sophia's somewhere in between. And I hear, "Psst, we want to talk to her." And I'm looking around thinking, who the heck is saying that? And they said, "We want to talk to her." And I'm like, who do you want to talk to? And who are you? Who are you talking to me? And then I suddenly realized there was a tree talking to me. I don't talk to trees. I don't talk to fairies. I don't talk to gnomes. No, I don't do that. But all of a sudden I realized, and it was a weird tree. It was kind of a twin. It was a twin that joined at a certain place. It looked like it kind of had a heart right where it joined. And I said, "I don't talk to trees." And they said, we don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to her. Could you? And I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to think I'm insane if I tell her this. Well, at least she's from Sweden. Maybe they talk to trees there. Anyway, I didn't know any people from Sweden, so possibly. So I said to her, "Sophia," because like I hadn't known her very long. I said, "Sophia, I think this sounds crazy, but this tree over here would like to talk to you." She was wearing this beautiful dress. She had her hair pulled back. She had long hair then. She had her hair pulled back, and she hiked her skirt up, climbed up kind of the root of this huge tree, and put her hand up right exactly where their heart was, and had a conversation with the tree. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I'm not too crazy after all, because she seemed to take that very well. But nope, she was good with trees. And I think that started on an adventure for the two of you, didn't it? With
It
that
did.
tree.
That tree spoke to us a lot. That field spoke to us a lot. Many entities. We called it Magic Land, because where we lived in Virginia, as you know, was a
It was
house
cool.
set on a hill overlooking a stream and a garden and a huge field, and it was really quite lovely. We would have fires by the creek and do rituals and ceremonies, and it was great. And being there with Sophia, getting to know Sophia was quite an experience, because I had studied shamanism in Latin America, and I had studied New Age occultism doing Magical Blend magazine, and I had studied old world uh, uh, witchcraft with the Salem witches and in Europe, but Sophia had studied Nordic witchcraft and the old ways, and when we got down and sat down and started to do ceremonies, the first ceremony, I'll never forget it. Halfway through, she said to me, "Do you ever stop talking? Ceremonies are not just talking." And it took us a while to find common ground to do our rituals and ceremonies and magic together. But eventually, she taught me the Seda, which is Nordic witchcraft, magic, old world, and what you do, it's a lot like the voodoo that I experience here in New Orleans and have touched in Brazil and Haiti, and you let the spirits come in and possess you, and then they speak through you and sometimes act through you. I had one spirit make me dance really bizarrely by the stream in Magic Land, but she taught me how to do that, and we would sit on the porch in Magic Land and overlook the field and the forest and the garden, and bring in entities and learn from them. And that's some of what I put in the travel tales from other realities, unknown realities, is that these entities with things I have a very vivid imagination, but things I could never imagine were talking to us about other dimensions and other planets and other realities.
Do you have any galactic beings show up? Because people ask me about that all the time.
Sure, we actually we had one of your friends, Patty, told us that there was a tornado living in a cabin. It had got trapped there. And I was like, I don't think tornadoes get trapped in people's houses. So it was a spiritual tornado. And when we talked to it, it said his name was Jim, because one of the people who had lived there before had watched old reruns of Star Trek, and it really liked Captain Jim Kirk.
That's funny.
And we helped it get out of the wall and out to the field, where we would talk to it from time to time, and it would give us all sorts of information, because it said it was an intergalactic being. And then after it got comfortable and adjusted, it started going away for periods of time, and it would kind of call us when it came back and tell us what it had been doing, what was going on, and at one point, some hitchhikers came back and kind of jazzed things up in Magic Land, and Jim had to banish them back to the dimension they rode in from. But eventually, Jim said, I've really loved being your friend and teaching you all these things from other planets and solar systems, but it's time for me to spend more time out there. So it said goodbye, and it just kind of twirled out, and that was the end of that. But it came on a regular basis for I would say 3-4 years. And one of my favorite stories in my recent book is that we were sitting on the porch, and all of a sudden I started getting really heavy, and I said, I think something's coming through me, and I feel like a rock mountain. And Sophia said, "Well, is it alive?" And I said, "It is. It's like a huge armadillo, and it lives in another dimension." And then this being started speaking through me, and it claimed that it only communicated in its own dimension by growing a limb and painting a picture for other entities to see. And then when it was done, the limb would fall off and the picture would go away, and it would travel. There were these ribbons that connected these islands that floated in space, and it would go from island to island, sort of as a missionary helping beings to throw off their problems and take on more meaningful lives. And it was fascinated by us because we had opened ourselves up and our energy had gone through, and it felt that our path with the Echo World magazine and our teachings and practices of magic were similar to its. The funny part was when it would come back to its own island, there were these bat-like animals that would just poop all over the island. It had to spend time cleaning off them and their poop, so it could be on its own island. I mean, it was a very otherworldly existence and very mundane, but very cosmic at the same time.
Have you thought about writing a book about that experience? That sounds like
I put that in the Travel Tales to Unknown Realities because he was quite. We called him Rocklip.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit because you keep referencing both Echo World and Magical Blend. Tell them first about how long you published Magical Blend, and it came out at kind of a very serendipitous time with that period of time, probably in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s. We again, blessed serendipity, came to do good work. I ended up in San Francisco because I was in love with a woman who got a great job there on Halloween of 78, and we didn't know anyone, so we started taking all kinds of spiritual classes in San Francisco in the late 70s. Boy, were there all kinds of spiritual classes, and we met all kinds of amazingly talented people. But one of the things that most of us had in common were that we were creators, but orthodox magazines, book publishers, and there were no podcasts then, but TV shows really didn't want to touch us. I had done some amateur magazines in New England, Poor Farm Comics and Stories, Open Door, nothing that amounted to anything, but enough to give me some knowledge. So I said, well, let's do our own magazine. So we got together in my living room and we all volunteered nights and weekends for 5 years, saving our money from day jobs and printing our creative outlets about magic and writing, cartoons and poetry. And a lot of San Francisco and New Age magic. The timing was exquisite because there wasn't too much like that out there, and it really had a slow start. Like I said, we volunteered for 5 years, but then after that, our 11th issue sold out immediately, and as soon as that happened, my co-publisher Jerry Snyder, bless his soul, his aunt left him some money, and he bought us the first Apple desktop computer and printer, so we could do our own typesetting in the office. We did Magical Blend for 27 years, and it was the unorthodox. Time magazine called us all the fringe material you could fit between two covers. It was the unorthodox, spiritual, new age, occult magazine of its time, and it was just a great experience. And I got to, because of that, and because of publishing my own books, I got to speak on stage. I got to know Carlos Castaneda and Dr. Clarissa Pingola Estes, and speak on stage with Deepak Chopra and Dwayne Dyer and just a ton of amazing people. Carol Mays, just and it was a great experience. And in the meantime, I'd run away to South America whenever I could steal time from the magazine to find shamans.
When you were in, I should probably tell you this story. You probably don't know it, but that magazine, Magical Blend, was one of the few things. I was living in Richmond, going to school at the time here in Virginia, and there were two bookstores, as big as they weren't huge, like they are now huge bookstores, but these were little bookstores, and I would go to one or the other looking for Magical Blend because it was the only magazine of its kind, and it never came to my mind that whatever, 30 years later, I'd be walking upstairs to meet you in your little house here in the backwater of Virginia. It
It,
never occurred to me, ever.
it was a great experience. When I was working at the Monroe Institute, I was helping them reposition themselves public relation wise. And people would find my office, which was sort of in the back because I wasn't teaching classes. I was just on the fringe. Well, I was helping in some of those, but and they would tell me how Magical Blend had changed their lives. How just they read material there they couldn't get anyplace else. We were sold in all the states, all the Canadian provinces, and 33 other countries. So it really it got out there. And when we got to Virginia, and after I did worked at Monroe Institute, some of our friends there decided that Virginia really needed that kind of energy. So they helped sponsor us to Beth Himes was one of them, and she's still a great friend. And they basically got us set up with Echo World, and we published that for 7 years in Virginia, becoming the alternative spiritual lifestyle publication of Virginia and the South.
I know it well. I've
Yeah,
written
you do.
many
You were in it very
articles.
often.
Many articles I wrote for you. Yeah, I did. I remember when we met, though, I kept seeing images of like Machu Picchu. Didn't figure out till much later why I was seeing them when I heard you speak somewhere in Charlottesville. But I wanted to ask you to share the experiences that you had when you went there, like you remembered lives, you had like a comfort level at Machu Picchu that you didn't have other places.
Yeah, the first time I went there, it was my first time in Latin America, and I after traveling around Latin America, I met a bunch of students in Cusco who were going to take the train to where you could hike up the Inca Trail. Back then, there were no guides, there were no gods, and there weren't a ton of tourists. So I joined up with them, and we took the train to Ollantaytambo, and we hiked the Inca Trail. And the Inca Trail was the Incas saw stonework as a level of art. So they built their roads and their trails to offset to show the magic of their surroundings. And every turn you took on the Inca Trail, and this is true of many of the roads the Incas built throughout Latin America, that you would see a different horizon and a different view that was amazing. When we finally got there, one of the fellows had been there before, and he took us around and showed us everything. And we found a place outside of Cusco, outside of Machu Picchu, called Huayna Picchu, which they think was one of the places that they used to grow crops to supply the people of Machu Picchu. And the next morning we got up, we toured a little bit, and then they all left to go to Veraconcha, which anyway, I'm saying it wrong. Vala something, which was the last stand of the Incas. I couldn't leave. I felt so connected. I went back and I walked around myself, and then I sat a little fire by the cave I was staying in, and then in the middle of the night I woke up and I went back down to Machu Picchu in the dark and started dancing. I can sort of move my body and make it believe it's dancing, but I'm not a good dancer. But I was dancing so fluidly. It was amazing. And I was singing songs in a language I didn't know. Later turned out it was Quechuan. And I ran all around from one spot of Machu Picchu to another and felt the energies. Eventually, I went back to my cave as the sun was coming up and fell asleep. And I started having dreams of the Inca gods and goddesses and the high Incas, the Sapa Incas. And they told me that I had lived in a past life in the Inca Empire, that I had even been friends with Pachacute, one of the most important high Incas, and that I had given my life with an agreement that I would return in another life to help bring forth the lost knowledge of the Incas. When I woke up in the morning, I said, "No, you got the wrong boy." I'm just a college student from Boston. I can't even say my R's right. I am not. I am not a past Inca that's come to be the chosen one to pass the knowledge of the Incas on. There was a series of me going down. I actually climbed the mountain right besides Machu Picchu, Huayna Picchu, which in the dark, which is hard. It's a good trail in the light, but I and danced at the top of the peak. I had all sorts of visions and dreams. Eventually, they threatened that they were going to. I wouldn't believe them, but they threatened they were going to kill everybody I loved, torture, and kill everybody I loved if I didn't go along with them. So the last morning I woke up there, I stood out, looked over the Indy Mountains, and I said, "Okay, you win. We'll make a deal." Well, let me warn all your listeners: don't make deals with gods and goddesses. But we did. We made a deal. They've affected my life ever since. I said I would go back to Boston if they let me graduate college, and then I would do whatever I could to help bring forth the lost knowledge. Well, I did a lot of time researching in the libraries, and there's been so much lost. The Inca Empire was so un-Western in all of its ways. And eventually I wrote the book, The Secrets of the Ancient Incas, and adopted my children from Peru, and spoke on stages from Vancouver to Santa Fe about the Incas and about their lost knowledge. And I really believe that part of what the transformation that's happening on the planet is that people are getting more in touch with the old ways, the pre-European, the pre-civilized ways. A time when capitalism did not rule, a time when people were in harmony with each other in nature, and everybody's potential and the potential of nature was more important than making a buck or owning a fancy whatever. I think the Inca knowledge and what they knew and how they practice is part of that seeding that's coming forth at this point in time. Well, that was kind of high horse. I didn't mean to get carried away with it, but
that's okay. I mean, the stories are always fascinating, no matter, because they're just fascinating. For those of us that would love to travel but don't, it's a way to travel, I think.
Thank you. No, I've been really blessed to travel and to meet. I mean, wherever you go, people really are good and they want to help. The vast majority of them will go out of their way to help a stranger. And I'm living proof of that.
I want to cover two topics and then we'll come back because you're going to give
You're a great interviewer. Thank you.
I want you to maybe tell us the difference between the shamans you met in Africa and then experience that you had there, and then the compared to the shamans you met in South America. And I know that you told me about one specific experience you had with the shaman in Africa, where people a shaman, what are they called, shapeshifted into something slightly different.
Yeah. I was blessed to go with now a friend, then a stranger who wanted me to accompany him. He's a philanthropist, and he had sponsored some schools and orphanages and refugee camps in both Sierra Leone and in Uganda. So for me going along and sort of acting as a cameraman and a bodyguard, I got a free trip to Africa for 6 weeks, and it was a trip of a lifetime. And he was not very shamanically oriented, believed in New Age stuff, but more Christian based, but a very spiritual man and a very creative man and a wonderful friend. And when we were in, and I got to meet shamans when we weren't looking at refugee camps and schools, and from Africa, and they're very similar to shamans that I met in the Amazon and the Andes Mountains, but very different in that there's a whole different lineage and a whole different belief system. The fellow that I had told you about in Sierra Leone, I met this fellow who said his uncle was a shaman. He heard I was looking to meet them, and he brought me and a friend I had met there to visit him. And I told him I wanted to learn the old ways, and the old ways have been, as in Latin America, pretty much crushed by the modern religions, both Christianity and Muslimism. But they have a stream of them has stayed alive, and people like this man have kept them alive. And he sat and we talked, and again we had tea. Again, he assured me there was nothing in the tea, but we and he told us of the old ways and how they viewed life more as cyclical, and how they viewed life more interrelated with nature, and how they saw humans as trapped in a cave and seeing shadows, not really looking at the reality of existence. Fascinating, man. I learned so much that night. But then he said, "But you really want to see what I do?" And he threw some wet leaves on the fire, and the hut filled up with smoke. And through the smoke, I saw him kind of dancing, and then I rubbed my eyes, and there was this bigger than man-sized snake in the room, and it was hissing and it curled around, and I felt this energy that was strong, set your hair on your neck on edge energy, and I heard a voice in my mind say, "We all can be much more than we appear to be. You have the ability to do this, and you can teach others to do this." And I choked in the smoke, and then and then the fellow stepped out of the smoke and said, I think you have to leave now. I just wanted to show you the old ways are still alive and still work." And I really I saw something very different but similar in Uganda, where this woman who ran a village, because all of the was not far from where Ebola and AIDS had begun. So most of the parents had died off. So she took in children, and together they harvested bananas from this part of this neglected old plantation, and they sold them to survive on. And she went through a whole. When I asked her about the old ways, she went through a whole series of ceremonies, and one of the men that was there with us had really had a heart attack and had really lost it. He just was almost zombie-like in his, when you just kind of going there and nodding his head. And before she was done the ceremony, he not only could hear, he could see, and he spoke like his old self, his son said. And she had done this using the old rituals of the former people of Uganda.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Tell us, but see, this was all your life. You as a younger person, I don't know how young, but you lived in a house that had cemeteries on either side, and your dad was a talk about that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think I was meant to be my life as it is. My father was a funeral director and an embalmer and owned a funeral home. My grandfather did too. I was supposed to take it over. That didn't work out. I chose not to. But he had gotten a great deal on a farm that had cemeteries all around it. So, I mean, it had a forest in the immediate back, but on either side and across the street, there were cemeteries. And I, at a young age, would help him, because my older brothers, who also were supposed to work in the funeral home, were wild teenagers, and they often didn't come home. And he had a bad back from World War II, so he couldn't carry bodies by himself. He needed someone to help him, especially in the old tenements. I lived in Lawrence, Mass, which was an old mill town. They were like 4 or 5 stories of stairs, real thin stairs. So you'd have to carry them on your back. So I would go, and he would strap the body on my back, and we'd carry it down and bring it to the funeral home and embalm it. And then I'd go home and wash up and go to school and look around and go, None of these kids had to get out of bed and bob bodies, carry them downstairs. But it was a real blessing because I got to spend a lot of time in the funeral home. And when you spend a lot of time around dead bodies, if you're psychically inclined, you tend to see ghosts and talk to ghosts. And I've depicted it in my books that I had some quite scary experiences with ghosts. And one of them was, I was a rebellious youth, and I thought it was really cool. In New England, they dig up the winter holes to put the casket in with a backhoe, and a lot of times they catch old caskets and rip out and scatter the bones all over the snow. And if somebody realizes it, they put them back in, but otherwise they stay there until the spring. I would go back after the funerals and gather up bones, and I had a big aquarium in my room that had been for my pet iguana my pet piranha that had died. So I filled it up with human bones. I thought it was pretty cool to have an aquarium full of human bones. Not too many people have that. But then I started having terrible nightmares, just the worst nightmares you can imagine. It was like I was caught in a hurricane, and people were yelling at me and screaming at me and hating me and saying all these things in all sorts of different languages. And it happened night after night. I told my parents I was sick. I couldn't go to school. I was afraid to go to sleep. It was terrible. And one night, I don't know where it came from, but in the dream, I became aware. And I said, please stop. Tell me what you want. Nothing happened. The next night, when I was dreaming, this fellow appeared in my dream, and he was dressed rather neatly in old-fashioned clothes. And he said, hi, I'm Phineas Goodhue, and I've been chosen to be the spokesman for the bones. And I said, all right, what do they want? And he said, they want to be returned to the earth so they can go on with their life after death. You've disrupted that. Being in your aquarium, they're stuck. So if you have to take them and bury them in sacred ground. I said, well, what do I get in return? Where I got this in my dream, I don't know. But he said, what do you want? And I thought quick in the dream, and I said, I want magic and spiritual knowledge for the rest of my life. And he said, okay, they'll do it. It's a deal. Bury the bones in sacred ground, and we'll bless your life in that way. So the next day was Sunday. My parents and family got up and went to church, and I said I was still sick. I took the bones. I took a burlap bag because that's what we had for feeding the animals. And I filled it up with the bones, and I hiked to the back of one of the cemeteries near us, and I dug a deep hole, and I threw the bag in and buried it up. And then when I got back, I said, okay, Phineas, I did my part. And I think that had a really lot to do with how my life has been just so. I think anyone can have psychic and intuitive and spiritual, especially now more than ever. I think we're all becoming telepathic. But I think that kind of boosted me a little bit ahead of a lot of people and gave me so many of these magical experiences. And from time to time, I believe, I don't care what anyone else believes, I believe I see Phineas and he tells me, yeah, that was me. I made that happen. Or, yeah, I'm there. I'm still in your life. Yeah, ghosts have been very important to me.
Somebody asked us a question, and the question is, what was your first metaphysical experience? That came up in our chat. What was your first metaphysical experience?
Okay, my first. Well, I guess it's a long story, so I'll try to abbreviate it. But I was working at the funeral home right around that time with Phineas, and maybe right before it, maybe right after it, I'm not sure. But there was a terrible blizzard. We call them northeasters in Boston area.
Yep, we do too.
And it came in just terrible. And my father called me, and he had to go pick up a body 30 miles away. And he said, Mike, I got 2 bodies in the funeral home, and they need to be embalmed, and I got to go. Find your way down to the funeral home and embalm the bodies. So I found my way down to the funeral home. It was I don't know. It was about 10 miles. I think I had an old car. I'm not sure. But I got there in the blizzard and started embalming the bodies. and I I used to smoke cigars when I was embalming because the smell is pretty bad. Um, and I was smoking a cigar and I was embalming the bodies. I've done that sort of thing before, but I was in the funeral home alone. It was the middle of the night, 1, 2 in the morning, and one of them just sat up, and I did not poop my pants, but I almost did, and I ran out of the room. And when I snuck back into the room, I realized, okay, it's just rigor mortis. It happens. I put the body back down, and I went into the other room and had a good shot of my father's best cognac, and then went back in and embalmed the other body. And then this body sat up again. Jeez. So I did all the checks. I knew there was, they had medical examiners that would examine the bodies, make sure they were dead before they sent them to the funeral home. I knew there was a kind of slack one in Lawrence, and I thought, oh, maybe he missed something. Maybe this guy's still alive. I haven't started yet. So I checked all of the pulses and body signs and everything. No, he was stone cold dead. So I embalmed him, and my father called. He says, it's going to take me a while to get home. No, he didn't call because we didn't have cell phones. Another assistant came in. He said, your father contacted me and said, you should go home once you're done embalming the bodies because it's going to take him a while to get home, and he'll do that body by himself. So I got home to the farm and I went to sleep, and I started dreaming about these two bodies and many other ghosts of other bodies that I had embalmed, and some I didn't even know. And they said they hated me for being alive, and they hated me for they hated me for ending their life totally, taking all the life force out of them at the end. And they were going to curse my life, and it was going to be terrible. So the next day, I was embalming a body with my father, and I told him, and he basically broke the curse. He said, "Yeah, Mike, you're gonna have a lot of dreams like that if you're gonna work in this business. There's gonna be a lot of weird stuff. None of it's real. I don't even believe with life after death, so don't worry about it." So for a little while, I just dismissed it and didn't believe in life after death. Well, that with the next series of metaphysical experiences, that changed. But I think that was probably my first one. I'll tell one more story. I'll probably tell a lot more, but I'll tell one more. I had a pony named PA, and my older brothers and sisters used to pick on me a lot. I was number 4 in the number 5 in the family of 6, and I would come home from school, change, run out, saddle up my pony, and take my pony and my dog and go out in the woods to escape being picked on. And then when the sun went down, I would come home and put them away and have dinner with the family. One afternoon, I think it was fall, I was in this deserted pasture in the woods, sitting on the back of my pony, just enjoying life. And I saw this thing over in a corner, and it looked sort of like a shiny football, and it was getting bigger. And I realized, okay, something's in the sky. It's probably a blimp or something. It was moving towards me. And then it was really large right over me, this big shiny football. And this light shined down on me. To this day, I don't know what happened to the next 2 hours, but I woke up on the back of my pony, and he was really skittish, and my dog was really on edge. And I realized it was long after dark, so we galloped back to my home, and my parents scolded me for being home after dark, but I felt a great warmth for being home and with them, even towards my brothers and sisters. When I went to my room and I looked, I had this really bad ache in my calf, and there was this red mark about this big on my calf. I figured, oh, some bug must have bit me while that experience. Well, all these years later, I still have that mark on my leg.
Oh, wow.
I had a doctor look at it. He said it just looked like some kind of growth there, but who knows? And what happened, I don't know, but I think it had an effect on accentuating my experiences with the metaphysics and the ghosts, as well as Phineas Goodhue.
And you actually knew Whitley Strieber,
I still
the
do. Whitley and I are
author.
still in touch.
Yeah,
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 Whitley's.
that wrote Communion. Yeah, that
Yeah,
changed everything. The way
yeah.
people look at that.
He's a great guy. I believe what he wrote. I believe his experience because I've talked to him at length a number of times over the years. We had him in Magical Blood magazine. We had him in the Echo World, and he he believes that what is called UFOs and extraterrestrials is much more than the human mind can fully grasp. And that's what's happening is that perhaps otherworldly, other dimensional beings who can go through the fifth dimension are affecting humanity's evolution, and that that's some of them are nefarious, but others, the majority of them, want what's right for us, and that he was picked out early on to be one of their test subjects, and he's very convincing in his experiences that he's had with these beings. His books, I highly advise his books to anyone.
So we've hit the hour mark, and what I'd
Okay.
like to do is to have you explain. And I'm going to tell people that Michael used to come to my house and do this for me, and always between us was a being that I wasn't familiar with, and I'm like, "Do you know who this woman is?" And he would say it was.
Coca Mama.
There you go. So what we'd like to know, I'd like to know is how did you tarot cards? I get that, but how did you learn to read Bones and Leaves? Because you do
Okay,
all three of those things. Can you?
I
And
do.
you're gonna give us a demo, right? With
I would love to.
Alina. Yeah.
Sure, I would love to read for Elena. I learned to read tarot cards with the witches of Salem, Mass. Many people today read tarot cards. I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a matter of letting your inner knowing, your intuition, tell you what the cards that randomly or synchronicity wise show up. I think it's a lot like reading tea leaves. Um, and I think there's many ways to do divinations. I believe in the saying that as is above, so is below, so that we can use almost anything. I sometimes just grab a book off my bookshelf and open it up randomly, and I'll read a paragraph and I'll go, okay, that's what I'm supposed to know. That's what the universe is trying to tell me now. In my many trips to Peru and Bolivia and Ecuador and the Amazon and the Andes Mountains, I went to a number of coca readers. This is a traditional one of the divinations. The Incas had many forms of divination. They would read the number of kernels on a corn cob, and it would tell you things. They would read the number of hairs on a spider's leg, and it would tell you. They knew many things about the future. They knew the Inca Empire was going to be destroyed by the Spanish, and that it was destined beforehand from their priests and their fortune tellers. The form that has continued to this day is the reading of the coca leaves. Coca is what cocaine is made from, but in its pure form, as a leaf, it's just a mild stimulant that a lot of the people in Bolivia and Peru still chew today. And it's held by the shamans to be a sacred plant, ruled by Mama Coca, who is the goddess of the coca plant. And you ask Mama Coca for her blessings before any ritual. You hold up 3 coca leaves to each direction, and you add them to the fire, so that Mama Coca will help guide your ritual and ceremonies to bring to where they'll do the most good. You go to a coca reading and like a tarot reading in the States, you pay the coca reader. They take a bag of coca leaves and they throw it, and according to its pattern, you see it. They see patterns of what's coming in your future, your past, your present, and they interpret those for you. After going to a number of them, I studied with one specifically and picked up the skill. Bones. Well, I had been to New Orleans a number of times. I've been to Brazil a number of times. I've been to Haiti a couple of times, and the throwing of the bones is practiced in all of those areas. It's a ancient voodoo and Santeria practice to that the bones carry the energy of the beings, whether they're human or animals, that they belonged to, and that by praying to the guardians of the other worlds and the lowers and the oases, you will get a message through the falling of the bones and how the bones, the pattern of the bones, and what it means. And here in New Orleans, it's served me extremely well. I've gone to a number of the ceremonies here, and the lowers and the oases are very strong here, and they do come through very, very well, and they give messages. And I feel any reader, any psychic, any intuitive has their own filters and doesn't get it 100% right. But if they're able to get out of their way and let the messages come through from other entities or from the bones, the leaves, the cards, they can have messages and interpretations of your past, future, and present.
Now, we live in a very Christian and other kind of society, and what you just talked about probably will frighten people. Do you want to tell them why not to be frightened about that?
I will, especially living in New Orleans now. I've always known it, but I feel bad for voodoo. It's very powerful because it's gotten such a bad rap from Hollywood, TV, literature. Voodoo is a valid old world religion, coming from Africa, being modified in Haiti, in Brazil, in New Orleans. But it's not, contrary to popular belief, it's not used for voodoo dolls to kill people, to wound people, to lessen people. It's not used for zombies to walk in the night. It's not used for curses to be put on people. Are those possibilities? Are there some practitioners of voodoo that use them? Yes. They are few and far between, because anyone who practices magic learns that as you give, so you receive. So if you practice black magic, if you put curses on people, if you turn people into zombies, if you use voodoo dolls other than as a joke, it will come back to you and ruin your life and the lives of those you care about. But it works because, in my estimation, I talk to Christ, to Jesus. I believe in Christ and Jesus. I believe in the Christian God, as I believe in Muhammad, as I believe in Buddha, as I believe in most of the gods and goddesses that have existed through history. I don't think one God is the one true way. And a lot of Christians don't like me for that. And that's okay. We have our different views. And I also don't believe that magic and soothsaying or fortune telling are evil or the devil's tools. Personally, I don't believe in the devil. I think the devil exists only in the hearts and minds of people who do believe in him. I think that if we intend to do good, if we intend to live as Christ lived, then we will use spirituality, alternative spirituality, magic to help humanity and make the world a better place. I believe that God does judge us by our works, not just by if we believe in him. Again, the Christians don't agree with me there, but I think it's an important difference that if we do good works, as we do unto others, it will come back to us. And using voodoo, using magic to make the world a better place, well, if it's short term, going to get you right away, I've been really blessed to avoid it. And if it's long term, and the Christians are right, then I'll burn in hell for all eternity. But I've had a great time in the meantime, so I'm not going to worry about it too much.
Well, they forget too that a lot of the biblical, the people in the Bible were prophets. What is a prophet? But
that's it. I think it's important that if people have a religion that works for them, they should do it. They should practice it. They should use it. I think prayer is one of the most powerful magical tools available. I do have a problem with people thinking everybody has to believe like them.
Me too. I have that
Um,
issue as well. I
but
don't think that's
that's
necessary.
that's my belief. So
Yeah.
people who believe that and live a good life, I say bless them and more power to them. Uh, but I don't want people to think I'm doing evil or the devil's work, because I'm
You're
not.
not.
I'm just not.
No, you're not. Would we like to bring our producer, Alina, in? Where are you? So
let
that
us let us begin.
Hi, I'm here.
there you are.
Good
What a
to see you
nice
again.
girl.
Good to see you. You're so fascinating.
Oh,
You
thank
really,
you.
you're welcome.
Are we going to be able to see your cards? You're
What
probably
I think I'm
using.
going to do is hold up the cards one by one, because I don't have the way to show you the lay of them. So I'll just hold them up and tell you where they are.
That
Okay.
works.
And are you going to do bones and leaves too, or just?
Sure. If
Okay.
we have time, if you want me to, I can do them short, long, or in between. Um,
You
I generally
decide.
start with the cards, and as I've always say, it's up to you. You can ask questions as we go at the beginning, or just let the tools give answers.
I like
Whatever. Whatever you want to do. What
go
would
for
you like to do?
you tell me what the cards say. Go for it.
Okay, great. I use the weight deck, the traditional deck. It's the one I
Yes.
first learned on. I've used hundreds of decks. There's thousands of them now, which is wonderful that they're so available. I love going into metaphysics. Well, here we have voodoo stores, but I love going into them and looking at the different cards that are available.
Aren't
Basic.
all based on that deck?
Oh, what?
Aren't
Yeah,
all,
I do believe this was one of the first, if not the first.
I think it was the first.
Yeah,
Historically.
the story, the legend is that it came out of Egypt, and was spread by the gypsies throughout Europe. Uh, I don't remember being there. I might have been in another life, but I feel very akin to this deck. Of all you can, like I said, you can read from a book, but this deck for me speaks very well. It's very basic symbols. I generally uh, shuffle the deck and have you think of general feel of what you want to learn.
Can
Then
I
I cut the
ask you?
deck.
Can I
Please.
ask you? Did you do one more thing? And when you're finished, can you take a photo of that so we can attach it to this?
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's what I'll do.
Yeah,
Let me
so
see.
we
I'll
can see
move my
what
computer a
it
little bit
looks
to the
like.
side so I have space for it. Okay, great.
Okay.
So
I
the first card, and ask questions, either one of you, ask questions as we go. Great first card, the Queen of Cups. That really speaks to you coming into your power, coming into your trusting your own judgment, having worked through a lot of doubts and insecurities, and having come to the place. Cups, I like Cups and Wands better than the other two cards. They're all good cards. They all tell good stories, but Cups are all possibilities overflowing. My cup floweth over. So being the Queen of Cups really means that not only are you coming into your power, but you're coming into a place that you can share your knowledge and your skills with others.
That resonates.
Over that is the Hangman. The Hangman is, contrary to popular belief, it's a great card because for me, having married a woman from Sweden, it's Odin. Odin hung himself on the life tree to get knowledge, and gave one of his eyes to get otherworldly knowledge, and came back with knowing how to write the runes, which is one of the earliest written languages that we have. So to hang ourselves as the hangman is to give us a different view of our reality and to shake things up. I heard not long ago that if we break our habits, whether it's how we drive to work or which hand we drink our coffee with, we stimulate the synapses in our brain and break up things and make ourselves smarter and see things differently.
and you want
Over
to tell
that,
them. You
go.
want to tell them about Sophia having written books about runes?
I'd love to. Sophia, the first book that she had just finished and published when I met her is, unfortunately, both their books are still only available in Swedish. We're working on that, but is the Swedish the Nordic goddesses, and she picked a number of goddesses and explores them and tells their myths in modern language. Her second book is a modernization of the runes, where she interprets them from today's perspective, bringing in feminist, LGBT friendly, and just retelling which each rune means in a way that's much more humanistic than the Old Norse. Although the Old Norse were much more humanistic than we get told by those who tell the story. So both books are available in Swedish, and we hope to at some point get them translated into English.
Nice.
Across from that is the Six of Swords. This is not a warning, but kind of a warning. It's you're crossing the river. Some say it's the River Styx, the River of Life. Perhaps it's the River Jordan. There's milk and honey on the other side, but you want to sit still and listen to your inner voices and the voices around you, because if you move, one of those swords will fall out, the boat will fill with water and sink. So you have to, the secret that a lot of people miss in our busy material world to real spirituality, to real magic, to real knowing, is sitting still and listening to your inner voice and the voices around you. Oh, lovely.
That resonates too, doesn't it?
In what?
It resonates with her too, that one.
Oh, good. Then comes the Two of Wands. As I say, Wands is like cups. It's so full of potential. And the Two of Wands is a merchant. In old Europe, they would sponsor ships and send them forth to the Americas to bring back tobacco, sugar, molasses. And if they made it back without being overtaken by pirates or sunk in a storm, they were rich. If they didn't, they lost out. So they would stand on the shore and they would study the maps and they would hope that their ships came in. You're at that place of standing on the edge of the Rubicon River, and you're waiting to see if what you started is going to pay off, is going to come in. Oh, lovely. The next card is the Ten of Cups. And the Ten of Cups is your chickens have come home to roost. It's a lovely family, a couple and their children celebrating their home and the bounty, things. This is a great sign for what will happen after you wait for your ship to come in. Oh, nice. You don't often get two face cards of the same suit. This is the King of Cups, which is in some way, the patriarchal society is the step after the Queen. It's his rule is not questioned. He's not dependent on anyone else. He has his power. He has the riches to share. He's sitting very firmly on his throne. This is your near future. Things will come in. You'll be giddy with success, and you'll feel great thankfulness for what has happened. The Queen of Swords is next. The Queen of Swords, you're getting a lot of face cards. This is a good sign. The Queen of Swords speaks. Swords have to fight for their position more than the cups and the wands. They have to stand up for what they believe in. They have to stand up for what they're working for. The Queen of Swords has fought for her position as a queen, and she's ready to hold off any who would dethrone her. You will come to your power. You will come to a position of feeling good about who you've grown into and what you're doing in the world, and you'll still have to be aware. I know, having had some grand successes, that hubris it leads to failure, setbacks. Vanity is the sin that the devil loves, if there is a devil, which I don't believe in. But That's a warning. The swords are usually warnings in my book. The Five of Pentacles. This is the first Pentacles he got. Pentacles is of the material world, and it either tells us that we have to work hard for material well-being, or to pay our rent, or that it's going to fall in our lap. This is a mother and her son on crutches walking by the church. The church is lit up, and inside are probably people that are more than willing to help them. They just have to turn and go into the church. But if they're too self-conscious, if they're too afraid of taking a chance, they'll walk by and they'll miss out on the opportunity. You have to be willing to be brave and grab the ring in the merry-go-round when you go by. You have the Empress, which is the next step after the Queens. You really have a lot of this might be a little further in your future, but you have a lot of power. You'll be looked at more so than Angelique and I, as someone who knows and has arrived with your skills and your abilities.
Interesting.
The Knight of Wands, you're getting all the suits. The knight fights as with the sword. He's fighting to become the king. He's more than a page, but he's not there yet. So it's a matter. The knight kind of says it's growth. Wands of growth. The knight kind of says, enjoy the struggle. Enjoy getting there is half the fun. The journey is really more important than the destination. Your second last card is a Three of Hearts. Whoa. And it jumped out of my hand. I'm not sure the symbolism of that. But the Three of Hearts talks about inner struggle or outer struggle, that you are either conflicted as to decisions to make, or there's someone in your life who's not 100% behind you, or either someone or some of your own thoughts. It's a matter of just looking and saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and going with it and not looking back. That's what that sword wanting is.
That resonates.
The Lovers is the next. The Lovers speaks of, like the Ten of Cups, a time of bliss, a time of having the world support you, having trust, having arrived. It's a good last card for the reading.
Nice.
Any questions about the tarot cards?
Nope.
Nope.
Not
Okay.
not that far off from the last reading I had with you.
Oh, good.
I had really good cards.
Unfortunately, I do so many, I forget who I read what for. Maybe that's fortunate. I'm not sure.
No,
now,
you were happy with the reading.
we have the coca leaves. I keep them tied in a bag so they don't get
Smashed.
well, they get meshed anyway eventually, but they don't get as meshed, and they get the energies stay to themselves. The leaves are very leaf-like. They grow on plants in Peru, on the Andes Mountains, in Colombia, in Venezuela, and Bolivia. Very big in Bolivia, and they have a certain energy to them. Not only do they give you energy if you chew them, but they have a certain, I think, mystical energy. I get a little tingle whenever I open the bag.
Oh, neat.
I take the bag and I spread it over the leaves. Let me take a picture of the reading first, of the tarot reading, real quick, so we can post it later for those who want.
Yeah.
And while you're talking, can you tell them if they want a session with you, where they should contact you, how they should contact you?
I'm on all over the internet. Michael Peter Langevin, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X. And my email is michaelpeterlangevin.com, as it's on the screen right now. And They can even call me at my phone. I probably won't answer, but I will return the call if they leave a message. 434-260-9952. And I love doing readings.
And you have Facebook pages too.
Oh, that's right. I have many Facebook pages. I have Michael Langevin, Michael Peter Langevin, and then Michael Peter Langevin, the author. So those are all out there, and you can leave a message on those. I see them eventually.
And where do they find your books?
My books are everywhere again. Amazon has them. I have a author's page, Michael Peter Langevin, but they're available on most of them are available on any place books are sold. Okay. We then spread them over the reading, and I try to let my hand think for itself, so I'm not affecting it. I can't show you, but I can explain with words. The reading is really heavy in the past, really heavy in the future, really light just before now. So your past was, I'd say there's probably a lot of intensity in your life. Some of it good, a lot of it bad. And that formed your character. Got you to the place where you're working with Angelica, and to where you're looking for what your life's going to be in the near future. You're again the shallowness of the now, or the lack of leaves that felt there, is because you're in the deciding stage, the formulating stage. You have a good never fell below, so you do have a good base in the material world, because so many spiritual and creative people don't. But you do, and a number of them fell above, so you definitely have a lot of energies in spirit and creativity. The future is very intense, more intense than the past. Once your ball gets rolling, it's next. You're going to have to say, okay, I signed up for this. I'm enjoying doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to burn myself out. I'm going to stop occasionally to breathe, but I don't want to miss the golden hen laying the golden eggs while it's here. So you're going to be doing it. I'm not quite clear. Feels spiritual helping, magical teaching, spiritual facilitating of some sort. Feels like it could be part of it. That a lot of times, I had a sister who was bipolar, and she put me through hell. I tried really hard to help her to have a good life, and she had an okay life considering. I had no idea she was teaching me to work with developmentally disabled and mentally impaired people, diagnosed people.
Yeah.
It couldn't have had a better teacher. All the times I resented her, I now say thanks. Your past is like that. That your difficult times have really planted the firm foundation for you to go forward from here. You're refining what that is. The warning from the leaves is not to refine too long. Sometimes you just got to be like the fool and step off the cliff believing you can fly. You're close to that time, and you're just going to have to take a deep breath and fly. If you stumble, if you fall, you break a leg, then you get back up and you try it again. Is what it is. Yeah, you seem to have a long life, very meaningful life, because of the foundation you built. It's grounded in material world and in the spirit. Good stuff. Good. Better. I really hate it when I throw the leaves and they say not so good things about people, because it's hard to tell them that. But yeah, yours is good. Do you have any questions from the leaves?
Nope.
Mama Coca likes you.
It was perfect. It definitely
Actually, it feels like you're doing some of Mama Coca's work in the future, something related along that line, to bring to bring lost knowledge of sorts.
Well, I don't speak Spanish, but she would show up here. But Dawn and her husband's family have some Spanish, so.
Oh, wonderful. Well, yeah, Mama Coca, she bothers my son and daughter from time to time, and they say, "Dad, I'm having dreams again."
Oh, that's
So you have to, once you get connected with her, she's a blessing. And then I keep my bones. They're turkey bones and chicken bones. I think there's a few snake bones. And then the tradition of bone reading is that you throw in something else with it. So there's probably, I don't remember, but some coins and some shiny objects in here too that come out sometimes, but not all the time.
those last time.
Right. And they tell other things. I think people can see the bones sort of.
Yeah. Very cool.
And I do the same thing as with the leaves. Oh, let's take a picture of the leaves. So we have 3 photos to post.
So far, I think that was pretty accurate for you.
Very.
Oh, wonderful. We love it when it's true.
The first one was very accurate too. He knows what he's doing. He's good. Very good.
Thank you. So I do the same thing with the bones as I do with the leaves. I just pick them up and let my hand do the dropping.
That sounded like a lot.
There's a lot of bones in here. I've been collecting them for a while. Somehow more seems like it gives more options. Okay.
I wonder if I'll get the key again.
You did.
Oh, I did.
You did. And it doesn't come up all the time.
Yeah, you said that last time too.
Yeah, actually, you've got a key, a penny, and a seashell in with the bones. That's more than almost ever comes up. Seriously.
That happened to me last time too. You were impressed.
I am. So the past. There's wishbones and small bones in the past. A couple of big bones. You had some strong personalities in your past, and you had a lot of wishes, but you weren't real clear, and a lot of them were based on hopes, kind of thin dreams.
Yeah.
Only a couple of older bones that I've had in my pouch for a long time came up down below. I think this means you're not cutting your ties with the material world, but you're lessening your dependence on or importance of, so that there's a level of when people come to trust, which I've been working on all my life, but trust in the universe. They know that if they do the good work, that the universe will provide, and you're coming more to that place. There's a lot of bones in the middle, and some real strong backbones.
Oh.
High above, which speak of solid support, strength to go forward. The seashell and the penny are just in a very near future. So I think the penny means that once you've taken that step off the cliff and believe you can fly, finances will start coming in, and then you'll go, it's working. I know when Magical Blend went full time and I didn't have to work a part-time job, my business partner and I said, it's still working. We don't have to apply for jobs. It's still working. and I think you'll be at that place with what you're going to enter in on. The seashell is a lot like the cups in the tarot deck. The seashell is all things possible. The ocean provides. The streams come down from the mountains. The key is a key to unlock the unknown, to unlock the possibilities, to unlock your dreams, and it's right here. Just if I would say time wise, I'd say months ahead of the penny and the seashell. It's surrounded by strong leg bones, uh, which represents going forward, and they overlap with a big clump of future coca leaves. So going forward will be a matter of keeping up with the pace. Once it catches on, you're gonna be in demand. Um, it's just getting over this period of time will get you to a really good place. I want to check in with you in a year or so, and I think
You
it's going to
said
be
that.
amazing.
That's so funny. You
Well,
said you're
give us 6 months and we'll have you back again.
great. We'll get an update. Sounds good. Do you have any questions of the bones?
no, that was perfect.
Oh,
So
wonderful. I'm
thank
going
you.
to take a picture of the bones.
And you can text or email them to Dawn. She'll be able
Yeah,
to put them up for
I'll
you.
put
Okay, I will do that.
wow. Thank you. That was awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Very
No,
good.
it's always fun. I get really excited whenever I do readings. I get the energy that's coming through.
You know, I do the same thing that you do I open a book, like, what do I need to hear? Or
Right.
I put my hands over the cards and I'll say, okay, that one.
Right.
I do the same
Yeah.
thing.
People who choose to know can know that it is above so below. The universe is talking to us all the time. We're just so focused in our day-to-day reality and our fears and our doubts that we don't listen. But when we stop and listen, just the possibilities are endless, and the answers are right there. I mean, I've lived a few decades and had a blessed life, and it's not because I'm a genius. It's more because I'm lucky as hell and I listen.
Nice.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are so
Thank you.
blessed to have you as our very first guest on this particular podcast, and we
What a
can't
tremendous
thank you
honor.
enough.
Yeah. How great. This has been wonderful.
We can't thank you enough. Maybe next time we'll get Sophia to come on with you.
Yeah, maybe we will.
We
That'd be
could
good.
talk her into it.
I keep trying. I think she's getting to a place that she's ready to relaunch herself. New Orleans took a lot, but she's working on. She wrote this ghost book when we were in Virginia. It's to die for. And I'm trying to talk her into just self-publishing it because it's a little unorthodox, of course. But once she does that or gets one of her books translated, I know she'll be out there promoting herself because she's got a lot to teach.
So tell us one more time where we find you if people want either your books or your readings. Where do they find
Michael
you?
Peter
again?
Langevin, all over the internet. I'm not just the Michael Langevin. I have some stuff there, but there's a famous music guy, a famous soccer player. So Michael Peter really sets me off from them. And then Michael Peter Langevin at gmail.com is the easiest place to get readings. And then my phone is 434-260-9952. Anyone can call and leave a message. And this has been wonderful. You're both wonderful, and I enjoyed greatly sharing it with you.
Thank you.
We are very glad that you came. We were a little nervous there for a bit,
Yeah.
but
It's
we're
always been
glad
that
that
way,
you
right?
made it.
Got to build the anticipation.
Yeah. So we thank you so much. This was, recorded live, but it will go up into YouTube, and maybe we'll put it on Facebook as well. So
Great. I will tell people on my internet places that if they missed it, they can see it.
yeah, and the link is still good for YouTube. I think Dawn Alina sent you that link.
Yeah, I think Alina did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
So yeah.
alrighty. Well, we
All
thank
right.
you so much. It's
Thank
so
you.
nice to
Enjoy.
see you. So
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Great to share this with you. Take care.
Bye.
You too. Bye
Bye.
bye.